All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're going to do something a little bold. We're going to take a look at one of the most basic rules of logic, a rule that, honestly, you use every single day without even thinking about it. And we're going to see if it really holds up.
And really, it all boils down to this one simple question. For centuries, Western thought has pretty much drilled into us that there are only two choices. Something either exists or it doesn't. It is or it is not. Black or white. Simple, right? But what if that's not the whole picture? What if there's something else?
This rule has a pretty formal name, the principle of the excluded third. The easiest way to think about it is like a light switch for, everything. It's either on or it's off. A statement, it's got to be either true or false. A thing, it either exists or it doesn't. There's just no middle ground. No kind of exists, no sort of true. No third option allowed. And, this isn't some obscure rule. It's the absolute foundation of how we build arguments, how we do science, how we make sense of the world.
Okay, so let's make this real. Imagine you have a brand new idea, something totally original that's never been thought of before. According to this excluded third rule, that thought has to fit perfectly into one of two boxes. Either it exists, like poof, fully formed, or it simply does not exist at all. There is no in-between state. A third possibility is, just like the name says, kicked out, excluded. So you end up with this world that's just full of these neat little pairs, on or off, present or absent. A word is either spoken or it's not. A thought is either written down or it isn't. Everything is tidy, everything is logical, it all fits. But you have to ask, is that really how reality works? Is it really that clean? And this is where things get really interesting, because there's a huge glitch in this system. What about the actual act of creating? That moment between something not existing and then existing. That whole process of bringing a thought into the world, that spark, that becoming, the doing of it. Where in the world does that fit into our neat little on-off system? Well, in the philosophy we're looking at today, this process gets a pretty cool name. It's called the absolute other. And the key thing to get here is that it's not a state, like is or is not. It's not a thing sitting still. It's something completely different. It's a dynamic event, a process that actually changes what's real. And here it is. This is the big idea. The act of creation, it isn't A and it isn't B. It is that forbidden third option. It is the excluded third. So get this. The very thing that centuries of logic have told us is impossible is actually maybe the most fundamental, most important process in the entire universe. So forget the light switch for a second. Think of it more like a journey, a one-way street. You start with something not existing. Then you move through this moment of creation, this absolute other. And that step, that's crucial. It's irreversible. You can't uncreate it. And that journey leads to existence. And guess what? This forward-moving, irreversible process, that's what we call time. Okay, so if this whole idea of creation as a process feels, right to us, we all create things all day long, from making a sandwich to writing an email. Why does our logic system just completely choke on it? Well, maybe the problem isn't with reality. Maybe the problem is with our rule book, with the tools we're using to try and measure reality. And this is the heart of the mismatch. It's a classic mix-up. On one hand, you've got the real deal, the active creation itself. Let's call it the marked one. It's messy, it's dynamic, it's where time and change actually happen. But then, on the other hand, you have the word creation, the linguistic marker. And that's just a symbol on a page. It's static. It plays by the old rules. The word is either there or it's not. But the living, breathing reality that it's supposed to represent, that plays by a totally different set of rules. This is what philosophers call a category error. And it's a huge one. We're basically taking the rules for our static symbols, for our language, and we're trying to force reality to obey them. But reality is dynamic and messy and, creative. It's that classic mistake, right? We're confusing the map for the actual territory. The map is neat and flat, But the world is full of mountains and rivers that the map can only hint at.
And look, this isn't just some abstract word game. This confusion causes real-world headaches, big philosophical problems we've been wrestling with for ages. It's why our theories about time can feel so contradictory. It's why we have such a hard time with free will. Because what is an action if not a little act of creation? It's even why we struggle to explain what it means to be a person, a self, someone who is constantly changing and becoming.
So maybe we've been looking at this all wrong. This excluded third thing, it isn't some logical black hole, some impossible nothing. What if it's actually the most important place of all? What if it's that dynamic, fertile ground of pure potential? It's not the 0 or the 1. It's the space between them. It's the becoming. It's the journey.
And that right there is why this whole thing matters so much. When you see creation as the excluded third, it stops being a logical problem, and it becomes this incredibly profound insight into how everything works. That space that logic told us to ignore, that forbidden zone, turns out it might just be the engine room of reality itself. It's where change comes from, where creativity is born, where time gets its arrow. It's the space of life.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. If something as fundamental as the act of creation happens in a place that our simple, binary language can't quite reach, what else is happening there? What other vital, dynamic, living parts of your own reality are out there, existing in that gap between the words you know and the life you actually experience? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.